The Orioles' most surprising area of struggle this season has been their offense. There's been three main guys who just have been big disappointments: Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman, and Heston Kjerstad. So today we try to dive into what's going wrong with all three and how can they turn it around. That's coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to take a look at the three hitters who have been the most disappointing for the Orioles as they go through their struggles this year. Adley Rutschman, Heston Kjerstad, and Ryan Mountcastle, all severely underperforming and all have been really hurting the Orioles at times when they are in this lineup. We'll try to break down the struggles of all three guys, try to find the main thing going wrong and what each of those players can change. As we're still in June. There's still more than half of this season to go to turn things around before it is too late. And that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So as you can probably tell here on a Wednesday episode, I'm recording here just after 9 p.m. on Tuesday. There will be no game recap from game one between the Orioles and the Mariners out in Seattle on Tuesday night, as I talked about briefly on yesterday's episode. When the Orioles go on the West Coast during the week and they play these 9:40 p.m. games on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, for the game that's going to be over past midnight, for me to then record an episode, edit an episode, upload an episode, and still be able to get up and feel good and go to work the next morning to my 9-to-5 job, it just can't happen. So as I've done the past couple of years when the Orioles have these weeknight West Coast games and these late starts, I do not recap the game. I, again, am recording right now before Tuesday night's game has even started. So hopefully the Orioles got a gem from Sugano. They got to Kirby and they won game one against the Mariners and got themselves a season-high 4-game winning streak. That is what I'm hoping's happened. Who knows what really happened? You know, I don't right now as I'm recording. But you can go check out the postcast with Luke if you want a recap of the game. It'll be the same thing for Thursday's episode. No recap of Wednesday night, but it is a 3:40 day game on Thursday. So Friday's episode this week, we'll have the full recap of all three games of the series between the Orioles and the Mariners. But just because of that schedule doesn't mean I'm not going to get you a podcast here on the feed. Still want to get you 5 days a week of shows here at Locked On Orioles. And of course, if you're still hanging on, still listening, you can always subscribe wherever you do listen. Leave a 5-star rating and a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps out the show. We're here on YouTube as well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. And finally, if you have any of those thoughts, want to talk some ball, mailbag questions, whatever it may be, you can always email me, lockedonorioles@gmail.com. So today, I wanted to take a look at the three, maybe not the three hitters who are struggling the most on an Orioles team that has definitely been very disappointing offensively altogether. Obviously, early in the year, the disaster that was the starting rotation was the reason why the Orioles started out slowly. But the bigger reason lately why they're still not playing great baseball is as the pitching rotation kind of figures it out, this offense has still been a mess. Now, all the injuries they have sustained are a big part of that. It was nice for the Orioles to have Colton Cowser return to the lineup on Tuesday night. That's certainly going to be a boost, but there's still a lot of hitters, a lot of important hitters on the IL for the Orioles. Even with that, some of the guys who have mostly stayed healthy, although one of the guys we're going to talk about just did hit the IL over the weekend, guys have been underperforming. And I think the three main contributors there to not being the worst hitters, right? Because there's some guys that we're not going to talk about who have just been objectively worse at the plate, but with lower expectations, right? Like, I'm not going to talk as much about Jordan Westburg or Tyler O'Neill because they've both been injured for so much of the year that they haven't been given even really a chance to turn things around. I'm not going to talk as much about Jorge Mateo, right? Or Kobe Mayo, because Jorge Mateo, no expectations. Kobe Mayo still doesn't have that many plate appearances. The guys we are going to talk about came in with spots to be almost, if not legitimate everyday players for this Orioles team. They were expected to at least contribute a above average offensive performance for the O's, and none of them have done that, and we're going to try to figure out why. So let's start with Ryan Mountcastle, who is currently on the 10-day injured list with a right hamstring strain, but He was placed on the IL on Saturday, and it's really his first true injury of the year. He's been in the Orioles lineup pretty much all season until he sustained that injury on Friday against the White Sox. So it's not like he's been on the IL for a month now. It's been a couple of days. We could talk about certainly the struggles that he has had. Mountcastle this season, 200 plate appearances on the dot for the Orioles, playing in 52 of their games so far this year. It's a 246 average, which would be a career low. It's a 280 on base, would be very much a career low, and a 348 slugging, which also would be a very much career low. That's a 78 WRC plus, making him 22% worse than a league average hitter so far this year. His 4% walk rate, by far a career low, and his 23% strikeout rate is his highest since 2022. Only 2 home runs on the season for Ryan Mountcastle in 200 plate appearances is kind of absurd when you think about this as a guy who hit 33 home runs in his first full big league season back in 2021. It has not been good for Mountcastle this season. So the question is, what in the world is going on? Now, there are certainly still tools here with Mountcastle that make you believe, right? There is underlying data we're going to talk about. He's still only 28 years old. He'll be a free agent after 2026. So there's still time for the Orioles potentially to turn him back around and make him a productive part of this team. Like, hey, the bat speed is great. It's in the 91st percentile. Only Gunnar Henderson on the Orioles has better bat speed. His hard hit rate on the year of 46.5%. That's in the 71st percentile in baseball. He's third on the Orioles behind Gunnar and Ryan O'Hearn. His 11.1% barrel rate is in the top 1/3 of hitters in baseball. That's the highest barrel rate on the Orioles this year. And he's got a good sweet spot percentage. It's in the 72nd percentile. Like, he is making good contact when he hits the ball. And that is why you still see him as a guy who still has a chance to break back out and be a really productive hitter at the big league level. Like, this is the underlying data of not a great hitter, but potentially a really good Major League Baseball hitter. And this data is fairly in line with what we've seen throughout his career since the Orioles promoted him to the big leagues back in 2020. Generally, these hard hit rates, these barrel rates, this bat speed, that's what we've seen from Ryan Mountcastle. So the first question is, okay, under the hood, a lot of stuff looks the same. Why is he performing poorly? And really, the stuff that's going wrong for Mountcastle, it's the terrible chase rate, right? It's a 39.6% chase rate, pitches he's chasing out of the zone. That's in the 4th percentile in baseball. He's one of the worst hitters when it comes to swing at pitches outside the strike zone. His 29.1% swing and miss rate, that's in the 8th percentile. Like, that's stuff that is not good at all. But sadly, those two numbers are also pretty in line with his career norms. This has really been the hitter Mountcastle has been since getting to the big leagues. He's a free swinger. He chases out of the zone, but when you're in the zone to him and he makes contact, he makes good quality contact. He has good bat speed, and he can really produce and be a power hitter, especially earlier on in his career as well. So the real reason is you're looking at it, you're like, all that underlying stuff is the same. So how does he go from last year? And again, it wasn't an amazing year, but he hit 271. He had a 108 WRC plus. He was, definitely better than a league average hitter. To be, borderline unplayable, especially as a first baseman in the offensive category. Well, you got to look at the batted ball profile. What's the approach? Where is he going when he hits the ball? And all the data and the research and the numbers show the most hits, when you hit the ball in the air, you want to pull the ball in the air. So as a right-handed hitter like Mountcastle, you want to hit the ball to left field. If you hit the ball on the ground, you want to hit it to right field. Now, on the ground is not going to give you a lot of slugging, a lot of extra base hits, but more hits come from grounders hit the other way than to the pull side. And when Ryan Mountcastle had those 33 home runs in that great rookie season in 2021, he hit the ball in the air and he pulled it in the air a ton. Back then, 64.5% of his batted balls were in the air. That was second on the Orioles. That was top 35 in Major League Baseball. He also pulled the ball in the air almost 21% of the time. That was 4th on the O's. Like, he was doing what he needed to do to tap into his power, and he was also taking advantage of the ballpark. Remember, back in 2021, that was the final season of the super short, super close left field wall at Camden Yards, and he was just parking balls into the left field seats, hitting the ball up in the air and driving it out there with his power to get to 33 home runs. However, yes, more than not, his home runs went to left field at Camden Yards. But to get to those 33 bombs, he still used the entire field. If you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel, going to throw a chart up here from StatCast and Baseball Savant. This is Ryan Mountcastle's home run spray chart from the 2021 season. You can see where all of his homers, yeah, of course, there is a cluster down the left field line, but there's a good chunk to center and a really high chunk that went out to right field, not just at the shorter porch at Oriole Park, but at away ballparks as well. That is how you get to 33 homers. It is very hard to hit 30 plus homers and just be parking them all to the pull side. You got to be able to use your power to all fields to have a 30 plus homer season. And that is exactly what Mountcastle did in 2021. And since then, the power's gone down. He went to 22, then 18, then 13, and now 2 home runs so far this year. And the question becomes, well, why did that happen? Simply put, he's just not pulling the ball and hitting the ball like he used to. His in-air percentage is down to 56%. That's a career low of balls in the air. His ground ball rate, of course, on the other end is above 44%. That is a career high for his ground ball rate. And he's pulling his ground balls. And I mentioned, right, that the opposite field grounders are going to do more damage for you. Of all his batted balls, 25% of them right now are pulled ground balls. His previous career high was 19. 25, a quarter of your batted balls are grounders that are pulled. Those are going to end up being outs. There's a lot of times you roll over a pitch to shortstop or third and get thrown out pretty easily. Those are not productive at-bats, especially for a righty. Even in times when you come up, runner on second, no outs. If you can get a grounder to second, you at least move the runner over. You hit one to third, no production whatsoever, even with moving a runner over. And the funny thing is, like, if you look at those pulled grounders and things like that, it was almost an identical season last year. But I mentioned he was an above average hitter by production. His hard hit rates, his chase rates, ground ball rates, fly ball rates, pretty much all the same in 2024 as they are now. Difference is he only had that 17% of his batted balls were pulled ground balls. He just picked up more hits going the other way, and now he's not doing it. And when he pulls the ball in the air, again, that is the best way to hit for power and do damage, is hit the ball, pull the ball in the air. When Mountcastle pulls the ball in the air, he's hitting .640 with a 1,200 slugging percentage this year. That is great. That tells you keep doing that. And with the Orioles moving the left field wall back in some this year after 3 years of crazy Baltimore, that certainly hurt Ryan Mountcastle in his production, was obviously something he was thinking about. It's something he's addressed multiple times this year as well, that it was impacting him, and that's one of the reasons the Orioles pulled it back in. So Mountcastle kind of went to more of an opposite field approach. He was pulling a lot of stuff, hit 33 homers in 2021. Then they changed the wall, and Mountcastle felt forced, with 81 of his games being played in that ballpark, to change how he approached things. He started to hit the ball the other way more, find the gaps for doubles to right center field, and he was kind of a different hitter. And because of that, his home run totals and his slugging percentages went way down. Now, with the wall being pulled back in, it didn't come all the way back into 2021 levels, but it's shorter, it's closer. He had a home run over that wall back in early April. That must have felt good to finally do that 4 years later. But he seemingly has changed his approach again based on the wall, and he is looking to pull the ball in the air more, just like he did 4 years ago. And it has worked in the sense that he's doing what he wanted to do. He wanted to pull the ball in the air at a base level. He's doing that much more this year than he's done the previous couple of years. Unfortunately, he's also pulling the ball on the ground way more. And that is what you don't want. When he's pulling the ball, you want him to hit it in the air. You need him to be a big slugger, and he's hit 2 home runs. He's not doing that at all. And I worry that what has happened is he's so focused on pulling again that he's rolling over balls to third base and shortstop way more often than he did the last 3 years. And this would be okay if he was at 12 home runs and sometimes he was pulling too much, but when he was selling out for power, he was being rewarded. That's not happening. He's got 2 homers, so there's not the give and take. It's just a lot of the ground balls to the left side that are hurting him. And when he hits balls in the air to right and center field, it's a .750 expected slugging percentage. He is still looking to do some damage when he hits it out there, but it's getting less and less. I'm worried that the approach, he kind of swung it back to pulling everything, and that wall is just still too far away to just dump everything out into the left field short porch like he did in 2021. And he also just, I don't think, has the same raw power that he did 4 years ago when he came up to the big leagues. He looks like at this point he's never going to be a 30 homer guy again. And with a 348 slugging percentage like he has this year, he's just unplayable. I mean, even just to get back to the 425 slugging that he has last year, that's not a huge power hitter, but he's got to start to look to right field again. And this is not what we would have told the Ryan Mountcastle of old, the 2021 Ryan Mountcastle. This is not even what we would have told Mountcastle coming into this year with the wall being changed again, presumably in his favor. But he, at this point, has just got to say, screw the wall and push the ball the other way. Like, he found a way to do that when the wall was way back, and he found a way to have success. In reality, Ryan Mountcastle hit 33 home runs in 2021. That was great. But he ended the year with a 111 WRC plus. And that's fine. It's 11% better than league average. That's a productive season. 2 years later in 2023, he started using the whole field more. He put the ball in play more. He hit for a higher average. He only hit 18 homers, but he had a 114 WRC plus. So even though he was 15 homers down, he actually had a more productive overall season at the plate 2 years later with Baltimore by doing different things when he stepped into the batter's box. He's obviously tried to go back to his old self, but the new wall is not as close as he wants it to be. And now he's just way out of sorts, and he's basically unplayable. So if he's not going to have that big crushing power, you might as well look to right field again. You might as well look to drive the ball to the right center field gap. There was a great story from John Mioli in the Baltimore Banner last week that kind of talked about this stuff in even more depth that you should definitely go and check out. But at the end of the day, my suggestion for Mountcastle would be, I know it messed you up the last couple of years, that big Baltimore, and you kind of changed the entire hitter you were, but it's become clear through the first 2 months of this season, you went too deep. You can't be changed back, and you found a way to be a productive, above average big league hitter in the new kind of opposite field approach Ryan Mountcastle. I would love for the 2021 Mountcastle to be back. That's not going to happen. So it's time to drop all the pulling and just embrace the hitter you were the last 3 years, because that's how we know you can at least be productive. And this version of Mountcastle is not productive at all. He can't even hit lefties right now. I mean, lefty changeups, lefty fastballs are killing him. He had a 131 career WRC plus against lefties coming into this year. It's a 200 average and a 44 WRC plus against lefties this season. He hit lefty changeups to a 311 average and a 508 slug the last 2 years. He's hitting 167 with 0 extra base hits and a 41 swing and miss percentage against left-handers changeups. That worries me. He's supposed to be a lefty master. He's not doing it. He just needs to go back to that right field approach. And unfortunately, that's not going to allow him to reach his ceiling, but he's reached his floor doing the other thing right now. So we got to at least get him back to above average if he has any chance of being a productive major league hitter, at least in an Orioles uniform, ever again. So that's the Ryan Mountcastle of it all. He's on the IL right now. Kobe Mayo is certainly going to be taking his at-bats over there at first base and DH. But a guy who's going to be in the lineup pretty much every day and still needs to figure it back out, that is Adley Rutschman. The conversation of pretty much every Orioles fan right now is, what is going on with Adley Rutschman? We'll try to dive into that heavy topic coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. And I love the collaboration feature since I got married. You kind of bring your money together in that sense. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared accounts and personal accounts. You can set goals. You can stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. So for one struggling Orioles vet, we move on to less of a veteran on this team, but still a struggling star player, and that is Adley Rutschman. Now, I don't think in this segment I'm going to be able to dive in fully to all the things that are forcing Adley Rutschman to look like a completely different hitter than he was just a year ago. at this point, but I'm going to try and do the best I can. Adley Rutschman through 213 plate appearances this year. Again, this doesn't include Tuesday night because this game still has not started as I am recording right now. But in his first 213 plate appearances, 203 average, 300 on base, 332 slug, 5 homers, 12% walk rate, 17% strikeout rate, and an 86 WRC plus. He's been 14% worse than league average at the plate. So not as bad as Mountcastle, but still certainly some issues there with Adley. First of all, this is something I said about a month ago, maybe the last time I kind of tried to break down Adley's struggles a little bit. The underlying stats still say, even at this point, recording on June 3rd, that he is going to break out of this, that the way he is contacting the baseball, he should be rewarded with just better stats overall. Yes, it's a 203 average, but StatCast has a 262 expected batting average. Now, that's still not amazing, but that's 59 points between actual and expected batting average is the 9th largest gap of any hitter in Major League Baseball so far this season. Also the 9th largest gap between his slugging and expected slugging and his WOBA and ex-WOBA. There is a lot of bad luck involved. He's running a 228 BABIP. That is batting average on balls in play. The league average is about, 280 to 290 each year. If you're that far below the league average, there is bad luck involved there. He's just been getting unlucky, but he's been unlucky now for more than 2 months of this season. If you're unlucky for 2-3 weeks, you can chalk it up to luck and move on. If you're unlucky like that for more than 2 months, there's clearly something else going on. And that is what we're going to dive into. Bad luck is a big part of this. It's not all of it. And I'm going to try to dive into what else is happening. So far, much of the underlying data, as I mentioned, is right in line with 2023 Adley Rutschman. That's the guy we want to look at. Not the guy last year who had an all-star first half and then collapsed in the second half. We want to look at 2023 Adley Rutschman, right? That was the best version we've seen of him. He played 154 games, had almost 700 plate appearances, hit 20 homers, high walk rate, low strikeout rate, good batting average, a 127 WRC plus. He was almost a 6 WAR player. Like, that is the player we want to see Adley Rutschman be, and he has not been that since basically July of last year. However, when you look at the data, it's kind of the same player. I'm going to throw this chart up here. All right, put together this chart from some of his StatCast and underlying data for Adley Rutschman if you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. And again, the column on the left is his 2023 season, and on the right is here so far in his 2025 season. These are all of the underlying stats and what has happened in those 2 years. Barrel rate has gone up by more than 1%. Now, it is still not any kind of elite barrel rate. It's about league average, but it's gone up. Hard hit rate has gone from well below average to right around league average this year. A little still below league average, but he went from 29% 2 years ago to 40% this year. His bat speed has remained the same. Nothing has changed with his bat speed. Average exit velocity has gone up by 2 miles an hour. His chase rate has dropped by 3%. It's now in the 91st percentile at just 20%. His whiff rate has gone down by about a percentage point at under 15% this year. It's in the 92nd percentile. His squared up percentage, right? Are you squaring the ball up on the sweet spot of the bat and hitting it flush every time? It's up to 35%. It's up almost, it's up over 4%. And it's in the 93rd percentile. So he's making good contact. He's not chasing outside the zone. He's not swinging and missing. He's hitting the ball harder and more consistently than he was when he was a fantastic, best catcher in baseball 2 years ago. You're looking at all this data and you're like, not only is my argument it's about the same, it is all better than it was when he was awesome in 2023. So that makes you think even more, why in the world is Adley having all these struggles? Now, the one thing I do want to say about this is that he's not having the same issues that he had down the stretch last year. And I've talked about this already a little bit about a month ago on the show, but he got hit by that foul ball on June 27th last year. He took the day off on the 28th. He returned to the lineup on the 29th, and he was not the same hitter since then. From June 29th to the end of the year last year, he was terribly unproductive. He also had a 28% hard hit rate, 2% barrel rate. His bat speed dropped by 2 miles an hour. Something was clearly wrong physically with Adley down the stretch. What he's looked like this year, it doesn't look like there's any kind of physical injury that's wrong with him at this point. And early last season, right, he was selling out for power and it was working. He had like 16 homers before the All-Star break, but he was walking way less. This year, he got all that plate discipline back, right? It is 2023 Adley when you look under the hood. Honestly, though, I think he has become too passive. And I think that is the issue right now. Yes, he's gotten the walk rates back, which have been great, but he needs to attack a little bit more. And he's done it on the first pitch, right? The big thing with Adley in the first couple of years he was in the big leagues, he basically never swung at the first pitch. This year, his first pitch swing rate is up over 17%. It was at only about 10% last year. So that is a big change that Adley has made. And he should probably keep doing that because he's hitting 357 this year when he swings at the first pitch. So that's the one place in which he is producing. Please, Adley, keep that up. And his zone contact rate, it's elite. 91.5% of the time when he swings at a pitch in the zone, he makes contact. That's good. You want that. You want to put the ball in play. That is 24th best in baseball. So the data tells you if he swings at the first pitch, he's doing well. If he swings at a pitch in the strike zone, he's going to hit it. And when he hits it, we just talked about all that underlying data. He's hitting it harder than ever before. He's still squaring the baseball up. And the expected stats say his contact is going to lead to more hits. So what does that tell you? I'll give you a second to answer it. That tells me be more aggressive when you get a pitch in the strike zone. And if there's one thing I trust Adley to do, it's to be able to identify a pitch in the strike zone versus out of the strike zone. He's been great at that his entire college, minors, major league career, whatever it may be. That is his best tool as a hitter. I trust him to do that. You can be more aggressive in the zone because when you do it, you're great. But he's just not being aggressive in the zone. He is swinging at only 58.2% of the pitches he sees in the strike zone. That is the 25th lowest rate of any hitter in Major League Baseball. And opposing pitchers know it. Opposing pitchers are throwing 51% of their pitches in the strike zone to Adley Rutschman. That is the highest percentage of pitches he has ever seen in the strike zone in his career. So pitchers know, hey, Adley's being even less aggressive. Let's throw strike one. Let's get ahead of him. Maybe he's swinging at the first pitch more. So let's try to hit the corners. Let's try to throw a breaking ball on the first pitch. And then we will just attack the zone. And he's just going to be too passive. He's going to get himself in a hole and he's not going to be able to get out of it. And that has been the case. But here might be the craziest stat. You would think, okay, Adley's being too passive. He's getting behind in counts. He has to work an 0-2, 1-2. It's not a good place to hit. That is true. But you would think, okay, when Adley's passiveness works for him, when he gets ahead 1-0, when he gets ahead 2-1, 3-1, he should be at least taking advantage, right? He is not. And that, I think, is the biggest issue here. When Adley is ahead in the count, he is hitting just 204 this season. That is absurdly low. The league itself is hitting 291 when hitters are ahead in counts. He's hitting 204. He's slugging 389 when he's ahead in the count. The league's at 505. Now, his expected batting average is 287 when he's ahead in the count. So this is another sequence of bad luck. But at some point, if you swing more and you put the ball in play more because you know you can and you're hitting the ball harder than ever, if you just swing more and put more balls in play, the luck's going to turn your way. Math just says if you're swinging more, you're putting the ball in play more because you know you can. His meatball swing percentage, a meatball by StatCast is any ball right down the middle. He's swinging at under 62%, less than a third of the pitches he sees that are down the middle, he is swinging at. That is absurdly low. To put it in perspective, Aaron Judge swings at 81% of the pitches he sees down the middle. Adley's at about 61%. If you're ahead 2-0 and you get a pitch down the middle, he's taking it. Just let it rip. What do you have to lose? Nothing else seems to be working, even though you're doing everything right. So the more balls he puts in play with good contact, the more he's going to beat this bad luck. So my advice to Adley, just be more aggressive in the zone, swing more. It's going to turn your way. I promise. Just give me some aggression at the plate. This team needs it. You need it. That would be my advice to Adley Rutschman. The last guy we're going to look at is Heston Kjerstad. I'm not sure I have a fix for him, but we'll try to look at how bad it's been to finish off the show. That's coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, With a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, well, that's where Supply House comes in as well. They offer expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it is your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. So let's finish this thing up with Heston Kjerstad, who, of the three hitters we are talking about today, has been the worst of the three. Now, you can make an argument about, did he have the lowest expectations out of the three? Maybe. I would say definitely lower than Adley. You could certainly make an argument that people had higher expectations for Kjerstad than Mountcastle coming into the season. So it's not like we thought Kjerstad was going to be an all-star this year and he's dropped off to be this terrible hitter so far. But we knew that with Anthony Santander gone, even with the Orioles adding Tyler O'Neill in the offseason, that there would be certainly a chance for Heston Kjerstad to finally get some true run. And then once Colton Cowser got hurt in the fourth game of the season, it was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of Heston Kjerstad. And then that followed up with a Tyler O'Neill, multiple injuries, and a Ramon Laureano injury. Now Cedric Mullins injury. And it's like, yeah, Kjerstad's going to be playing pretty much every day in this lineup, whether or not he produces. And unfortunately, it's been in the or not department so far this year in terms of Kjerstad's production. He's been real bad. He's had 156 plate appearances, so he certainly get his chance. 185 average, 231 on base, 308 slugging, 4 homers, 3% walk rate, 28% strikeout rate. That is a 52 WRC plus. He has been 48% worse than a league average hitter so far this year. That is not what you want from a young guy who you picked second overall and are expecting to not be the best hitter in your lineup, but certainly be a productive guy in the, 5, 6, 7 spots in your order. Now, the biggest issue with Kjerstad right now is that this man is just in swing mode. And that's not straying far away from what we've seen from Kjerstad in his minor league career, even early in his major league career. He swings the bat a lot. His 56.3% swing rate is the 10th highest in Major League Baseball among hitters with at least 150 plate appearances. And his chase rate is 38.5%. It's bad. It's in the 6th percentile. But a free swinger is going to chase a lot of stuff outside of the zone as well. And that is what Kjerstad has done. And it really doesn't line up with the way the Orioles have done such a great job of developing all these young hitters since Mike Elias took over. One of the biggest parts of their hitting development program, especially in the minor leagues, is working on swing decisions, right? We're going to lay off the balls. We're going to swing at the strikes that we can hit hard and do damage on. And Heston Kjerstad has done a lot of damage in his professional baseball career. He's hit a lot of balls hard and a lot of balls far, but he also hasn't really ever gotten down the swing decision part of it. Now, he is striking out a good amount, like 28%, not ridiculously high, but a fairly high strikeout rate to be rolling with. But he's not striking out in the ways you would think. You hear a guy who's swinging at everything outside of the zone, you're thinking, oh, he's just swinging at every slider in the dirt every single time he sees one, and it turns into a swing and miss and a strikeout. And he does that sometimes, but his out-of-zone contact rate, he's making contact on 56% of the pitches he's swinging at that are out of the zone. That's on the higher side. But he's swinging so much that he's missing in the zone. He's missing out of the zone. And sometimes he just takes some good strikes early in counts that get him behind. He's got some called strikeouts. He's really not seeing the ball well at all. And that is not a place you want to be in when you're finally getting your first chance to really show that you can be a productive long-term piece in this lineup. And the issue is all that swinging is not leading to a lot of hitting. Like the guys ahead of him in the swing rate rankings, I mentioned he's 10th in baseball. The guys ahead of him are guys who have success because they're elite at making contact out of the zone. Pete Crow Armstrong, Luis Ariz, Yainer Diaz, Salvador Perez. They've got this great bat control where they can hit. They are good bad ball hitters is how they would be described. And so far, Heston Kjerstad is swinging at bad balls and has not turned himself into a bad ball hitter. He's hitting 105 on any kind of competitive swing on pitches outside of the strike zone. Now, the league only hits 167 on those pitches, but he's at 105. He's reaching it seems like every at-bat is a soft ground ball to second base. He just rolls everything over and hits it second. He's got that high pulled ground ball rate that he's rolling the ball over, high opposite field fly ball rate, as we talked about earlier. That is not a good combination to have. And the other issue with Heston Kjerstad is that with all of this, it's also coming with a pretty low bat speed. And that is concerning because it's not like he was this crazy bat speed guy coming up through the minor leagues. It had never been super duper elite, but it was graded out as pretty good. And it's gone down every year. 2023, when he debuted in the major leagues, 73 mile per hour average bat speed. That's above average. That's a pretty good number. Last year went down to 71 miles an hour. Okay, that's below average, but it's still workable. This year, it's at about 69 miles an hour. It's in the 16th percentile. Losing bat speed like that year over year when you're still only 26 years old, that is not a good sign. And with that, he's lost all his ability to hit the ball hard. Like his hard hit rate has gone down where it was in short samples at 55% 2 years ago. It's down to 42% this year. His barrel rates are down. His average exit velocity is down. And that's still with chasing everything and swinging at everything outside the zone. That is not the kind of combo you want if you are Heston Kjerstad. It's turning into he's falling behind. He's chasing pitches out of the zone. He's not striking out all the time. He's striking out a lot. And when he's not, he's rolling the ball over to second base. And this is something that John Mioli talks about a lot. He talks about how he talked to people in the Orioles system, and they would always say, like, hey, we know Heston Kjerstad is not taking to kind of the swing decision training that a lot of the other guys have taken to, but we think his skill set is so high, the power's so good, the hit tool is so good that it won't matter for Kjerstad. He'll be able to be a good, productive big league hitter without having these elite swing decisions that we've kind of coached into a lot of our other young hitters who have gotten to the big leagues. That's what they've said for their former number 2 overall pick. And unfortunately, so far in his big league career, specifically in the 150 plus plate appearances this year, that's not been the case. It has clearly hurt him dearly. And when you swing at so many pitches outside the zone, you're not going to have good hard hit rates because it's harder to square up and hit those balls hard when you're reaching out or you're dipping your swing down low or you're trying to go up and out of the zone. He just can't do it right now. And if you don't have good bat control and you have low bat speed, that's a pretty terrible combination, and you're not squaring the ball up well. It's an awful combination for a major league hitter to have, and that is what Heston Kjerstad has right now. And when you combine it with the fact that he has just been a disaster defensively in the outfield, you might say, Connor, Mountcastle's on the IL. Can he play some first base? The Orioles tried to teach Kjerstad first base a couple of years ago in the minor leagues. That didn't go well either. So we're kind of at the point where Colton Cowser returned on Tuesday night. Cedric Mullins and Ramon Laureano, hopefully back into this outfield soon. Dylan Carlson's been a nice piece. I don't have the exact answers on how to fix Heston Kjerstad because there is still, I think, a good major league bat in there. And he was a high prospect and he's only 26. I'm certainly not ready to give up on Heston Kjerstad. But while I had better recommended fixes for Adley and Mountcastle, my recommendation right now for Kjerstad is that when Laureano and Mullins come off the injured list and you have the ability to have other players, I think I would just send him to AAA Norfolk for a reset. He has minor league options. He's not helping you defensively, offensively. Let's do a little swing work, a little overhaul in AAA. I mean, for me, I don't really know what else to do because it's fallen off. It is tough to watch, and maybe it's just more swing decision work and get him to be a little more passive and a little more selective. That would be the first thing, but that's not really the hitter he's ever been. So it'd probably be really hard to make that change. They got to find something, though, because it is... I mean, I tend to say for guys, especially with the team performing so poorly, like, hey, just give them a chance to stay in the major leagues and work through it, right? No better time than when you're 14 games under 500. But it's just been so bad on both sides of the ball that, like, it might need to be more than just working out of it. He might need a mechanics overhaul, and that's only probably going to be able to happen in the minor leagues. So that roster move might be coming here soon when the Orioles continue to get a little bit healthier in the outfield. But that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Give me your thoughts right here in the Locked On Orioles YouTube comment section. Like what you think about, the breakdown of each three of these guys and what would you like to see from Mountcastle and Rutschman and Kjerstad moving forward as they try to hopefully turn their seasons around at some point here. I will be back tomorrow. Again, no recap of Wednesday's game because it again is another 9:40 start. Hopefully the O's won Tuesday. I'm watching right now. Just watched Colton Cowser's first at bat. He flew out, but they did get a run. They are up 1-0 in the bottom of the first inning, so hopefully that lead holds and they can get a W. I'll be talking more and looking more at the Orioles offseason, right? We just got bad news on Corbin Burns' elbow in Arizona. He has hit the injured list. We're going to look back at all the guys that, rightfully so, we said the Orioles should have made a bigger attempt at trying to bring in and help this team offensively and on the pitching side. Now we're over 2 months into the season. You can kind of evaluate these moves a little bit more. We're going to do another 2 months in evaluation of the Orioles offseason and see where did they go right, where do they go wrong, and how do we think about Mike Elias's decisions now here in early June. That's coming up on tomorrow's episode. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.